Works Committee to order at 6:45. I just have one motion. From the docket of June 4th, 2024, I entertain a motion to accept the following donation generously given to the city. A donation from R.J. Forbes Industrial and Commercial Painting Company that will assist us to complete the ongoing repair project at the Fred S. Briggs Pool. The donation of services and material has a dollar value of $35,900 and includes the following: services, sandblasting and power washing the interior of the pool. Materials, enough T-Mac, N69 epoxy for 3 applications.
Second.
Thank you. So obviously, huge donation, and the reason we're having the committee tonight is because we're under the gun to get stuff done for the pools to open. Does anybody have any questions? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion passes. And I'd like to call for adjournment at 6:46.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Motion passes. Thank you.
I'd like to call the IT and Infrastructure Committee to order at 6:46. Councilors Koblish and Reynolds are also present. We have one matter this afternoon from the docket of June 4th, 2024. I entertain a motion to transfer $5,600 from account 1124100-578300 Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account 1133100-524211 Budget and Administration Maintenance of Software to replenish funds used for form design for new real estate and personal property bills.
Second.
Thank you. This is simply money that is needed to create the new forms for the twice-a-year billing of real estate and personal property instead of the quarterly billing, and that money has to be replenished MIS before the end of the fiscal year, in fact, before June 15th, and that's what this motion is about. Any questions?
No.
In that case, let's vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. That being the only matter, I adjourn the committee, the IT.
Second.
I move to adjourn the IT and Infrastructure Committee
Second.
meeting. Thank you. This committee is adjourned at 6:48.
All in favor?
All
Sorry.
in favor?
Aye.
Of course. We are adjourned at 6:48.
Perfect. Thank you.
Municipal Council to order at 6:51. Please join me for a salute to the flag. Just so tight, get up. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. I'd entertain a motion to suspend the rules.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We're operating under suspended rules, so we can take the public hearings a bit out of order this evening. Let's see, there are no minutes to approve. Madam Clerk, will you read the notice of the first public hearing, please?
Certainly, Mr. President. For May 21st, 2024, first public hearing this evening, public hearing regarding an application to waive Section 11-15.1 to serve alcoholic beverages, wine on city property from Skyrock Brewery, 25 Riverbank Road on June 9th, 2024, from 4 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Thank you. Do we have anyone to speak in favor? Tracy, Adjo?
Hi, Tracy from Skyrock Brewery. So we are planning a outdoor event.
Tracy, just for the record, can you
Sorry.
give us a name and address? Full name and
Sure,
address.
Tracy
Thank
Sinelli, 11 French Farm Road.
you. Thank you.
So we are planning an event in June 9th. We're closing down the street from 1 to 8. We'll be serving alcoholic beverages inside, but people will be able to partake of them outside in the street. We'll also have a band, and then Morin's will be doing the food.
Do we have any questions? Mr. Lavoy?
Thank you, Mr. President. Tracy, good to see you. I know you guys already launched like pre-sale tickets and they sold out pretty fast, so I would say that this seems to be an event the general public is pretty interested in here in Attleboro.
Yes.
Perfect, thank you.
Okay, thank you. Additional questions or comments? All right, thank you, Tracy.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else to speak in favor? Do we have anyone to speak against? Do we have anyone to speak neither for nor against? Okay, Councilor Lavoy, do you see any reason to keep this public hearing open?
I do not.
Thank you. I declare that public hearing closed. Madam Clerk, will you please go through the reading of the next public hearing?
Certainly. Public hearing regarding a license application for keeping a stand in a public place from Tracy Sinelli, 11 French Farm Road, event to be held at 11 Riverbank Road, June 9th, 2024, 4 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Do we have anyone to speak in favor? John?
William John Moran Jr., 297 Bank Street. Following up on the same event, I would like to be able to serve food outside from, I believe, 1 to 9. We're going to serve food from 4 to 8.
Okay, perfect. Do we have any questions for Mr. Moran? Okay, John, thank you.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else to speak in favor? Do we have anyone to speak against? Do we have anyone to speak neither for nor against? Mr. Lavoy, do you see any reason to keep that public hearing open?
I do not.
Okay, thank you. I declare that public hearing closed. And Madam Clerk, if you go on to the reading of the next public hearing.
Public hearing regarding changes to 7-8.2 of the city ordinance requesting a review and overhaul of the abatement process for non-municipal users of the city's rubbish recycle program.
Thank you. We're actually going to cancel this public hearing, as I believe that Councilor Reynolds and Councilor Tavares has met with the administration, met with Deb, met with Cheryl Perry, and there's no need for this piece of business, let alone the public hearing. Madam Clerk, will you please go to the reading of the next public hearing?
Certainly. Public hearing regarding a proposed bag fee increase for fiscal year '25. The fiscal year 2025 solid waste budget was constructed with a proposed solid waste fee of $325 and a proposed bag fee of $2.50. Request an amendment section 7-8.1 of the revised ordinances, 7-8.1B of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro to establish a per bag cost of $2.50 effective July 1st, 2024.
Thank you. Do we have anyone to speak in favor? Do we have anyone to speak in favor? Do we have anyone to speak against? Do we have anyone to speak neither for nor against? Council Corbus, do you see any reason to keep this public hearing open?
I do not.
I declare that public hearing closed, and Madam Clerk, if you'll go on to a reading of the fifth and final public hearing.
Certainly. Public hearing. Regarding a request, the municipal council approve a resolution to amend the city charter to provide for the appointment of the positions of city treasurer and city collector currently elected, and to petition the Massachusetts legislature to enact same a change to the exempt classification plan.
Thank you. Do we have anyone to speak in favor? Good evening, Mayor.
Hello, President DeLucia. Hello, Municipal Council. Inasmuch as Kathleen D. Simone, Attleboro Mayor, of course, I'm in support in as much as I submitted the business. Couple of items of note, if I may. This is something I supported and began looking into when I was on the City Council and first reached out to former Cynthia Amara about this piece of business. It lingered on my mind since taking office, and I only feel stronger about the business after serving as mayor for the last 15, 16 months. This has nothing to do with the incumbents at all. It is simply the import of the positions and the risk that we face in today's world. The amount of money that comes in and out of the treasurer's office alone on one day, were somebody so inclined, whether by incompetence or intentional misdeeds, you could really do a lot of damage with a couple of clicks of the computer or your keyboard. The collector the same way. The collector is responsible for collecting and ensuring that their city receives all its due revenue. They operate in cash and checks in that office. I think the risk there is great as well. And again, I don't want to gild the lily. I pointed out my memo. I would note, according to the DLS letter that was sent in support, that we are far from on the frontier in this piece of business. In fact, 309 municipalities as of March 24 now have appointed collectors and treasurers. So I do not bring before you a novel change. It is meaningful and particularly important now. But I'll let others speak in their regard. I think if you even spend 5 minutes reading any research or articles, you'll come to the same conclusion that these are particularly important positions and worthy of the city seeking, recruiting, and defining the position for qualified professionals. And I would keep in mind, folks, that you write the ordinance that defines the qualifications for this position. You confirm the people who will serve in that position. Having said that, I want to bring your attention something that I have changed my mind about since I originally sent the piece of business down. After speaking with the treasurer and the elections manager on the last day, the elections office manager on the last day or two, I learned that the reason I sent it up as a special act requiring approval of the legislature only and not requiring that it go on the ballot, which is in fact not required. The reason I did that is because I felt the change should be made before the next upcoming election, that it's important and deserving of attention. I should point out, as some of you may know, this issue came up, I think, in 2011 by former Councilor Thibodeau. So I'm not the first to raise it. It's been raised years before. But I propose that we send up a special act and that be subject only to the approval of the legislature because I wanted to get it done before the next election. But with our current state legislature, I cannot assume efficiency or that it all happened quickly. So in order to kind of cover our bases, and also acknowledging that the elections office manager told me that it is her understanding after communicating with the state elections office that were this item to be included on the ballot, it could not be a special election. It would have to be a regular municipal election. What that means in effect is on the same ballot, you would potentially have this question to make these positions appointed at the same time having people running for the offices, which could make for some confusion. It's been done, certainly, but not the ideal. So I'd like to propose to you, when you go to your consideration and your deliberation, that you consider amending slightly the resolution that I prepared to provide that when the change becomes effective, if you pass it and the legislature passes it, that the incumbent currently serving in office will be able to finish out his or her term. That will give us protection from the event of were it to become effective by the legislature right before an election, what would happen to the person who just got elected, et cetera, et cetera. So I feel like it solves any uncertainty in that particular regard. So if I may ask Councilor Tavares for your consideration. The solicitor has reviewed that document as well. So I also reached out to Senator Feeney's aide, Keith Drucker, and asked him if he had any concerns about this particular business. He said, no, these things come up quite often. So I don't anticipate any issues at the legislative end of it, but I ask for your serious and thoughtful consideration, not that we continue to do things that we always do. That is easy, that is comfortable, and it may feel safe. But to really think about what these positions mean to the city, the amount of money that they deal with in and out every day, the degree of responsibility, the degree of professionalism and expertise, that I hope you seriously consider what is in the best interest of the city moving forward. And I say this not in disrespect to the treasurer who's here, but fundamentally, that's the only question on the line. It doesn't matter who's in the job, we want the best person for the job. And I happen to think we have a great treasurer and collector at the moment, so let me state that for record. This isn't about the incumbents. It's about the risk posed in the future. So again, I don't want to belabor the point. I think I laid it out in my communication. I think the evidence is clear. The case speaks for itself. The question, I suppose, for you, in my opinion, is not the merits of the question, but more a procedural one. And I think the process I proposed is not only lawful, it is perhaps the most effective and efficient way to go about the question.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the mayor? Councilor Holmes.
Thank you. You mentioned other municipalities that have taken this path. Did they have to go through the same process?
Well, it depends if you're a city or a town, right?
I
So,
was just wondering if you had any history or timeline on how long it took them.
yeah, well, it depends. It really depends. So first of all, I want to distinguish a town from a city. There was no pattern I could find for this particular piece of business, but I did some research as late as yesterday, because again, as we all know, the legislature is really slow in regard to some business. But Councilor Holmes, I found that particular bills, they've been passing things in 4 to 6 months. So if it's a non-controversial kind of issue, the legislature has the ability to move quickly. I'm going to hope it will. Keith Drucker indicated he didn't perceive any opposition to this issue, so it would pretty much be a home rule issue that should proceed, but I don't want to take that for granted. So I don't know if I answered your question. I wouldn't speculate. I think this should move forward, but I know it took 3 years for the gender change, the charter, and some would say that was due to the pandemic, but that was definitely on my mind, Councilor Dolan, that I wanted to build in that change and propose it to cover our bases in case it is longer than 6 months, in case it is next year or 18 months or whatever.
Additional questions? Thank you, Mayor.
All right, thank you very much.
Do we have anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone else to speak in favor? You know the routine, sir. Name and address.
I think I do by now. Thank you and good evening, President Delacio, members of the Honorable Council, Councilor Keith Jackson. My name is Frank Cook, and I reside at 32 Division Street here in Attleboro. It's nice to see you all again. I think the last time I saw you was at the inauguration, so I hope you're enjoying serving our city as much as I enjoyed it for the many years I was here on Tuesday nights. For us to be consistent with my past appearances before the council, I do believe that changes to the city charter, should be the result of a formal charter commission. I've said that in the past, so you're all familiar with that. So I just want to be on the record as being consistent with that. However, as Bill Belichick used to always say, hey, it is what it is. So here we are. For the matter before you, I do stand in strong support of this proposal. In the past, the mayor had referenced Councilor Thibodeau back in 2011. This is an item that I've actually spoken of the need for, many times, in the past, including with the current treasurer, the former treasurer, former mayors, and so forth. We're very fortunate, to currently have serving these positions two very capable people, who have been qualified through their experience, their education, and again, it's benefited all of us. One concern I do have, and the mayor had just referenced it also, is what will happen to these two people if the proposed measure is passed. I'm hopeful that that both of these people, if they so choose, would remain in those positions. I think they've done valuable service to the city. I think the city has progressed during their tenure, and I, as a taxpayer, as a resident, as a former councilor, I would like to see that continue. However, and the mayor did allude to this in her communications and in her comments, we must also recognize that we cannot count on this always being the case. As you know, in the city, the only qualification to run for office is you have to be 18 and you have to be a resident of the city. So conceivably, a person who's very popular could be elected, without any experience, that is so crucial in these two positions. And I feel that therein lies the danger. To be effective, people in these positions need a real vast and a strong understanding of financial policies and procedures, as well as accompanying rules and regulations, as well as the ability to remain current. And as we know, federal and state governments and other agencies send out a lot of changes and rules. So these people need to be people who understand that and have that background and can deal with it in a very fast period of time. And again, every year our budget goes up, as does the demand for things, buildings, projects by our taxpayers. And it's critical that the qualification of these two positions be more than simply the fact that they were the top vote getter in an election. We might one day elect a mayor who is incompetent, but such a person could probably do less damage in 2 years than, for example, an incompetent treasurer could do in less than 2 months. You may recall that I previously indicated how that problem could be avoided, which I won't get into tonight. It's not part of this proposal. And lastly, while I am in strong support of this measure, I am equally as strong in my opposition and having the state legislature enact this measure. And again, it's consistent, for those of you who were in last council, when there was another measure that was considered going up to the state government, or I stood before you and spoke in opposition to it. This is an Attleboro issue. It is, this city is going to be impacted by it. And I believe that if the city is going to remove an elected position from the charter, the citizens should be making that decision. If the measure is sent to Beacon Hill, people who may never have heard of Attleboro, or perhaps would need a GPS to find our city, would be making that decision. I have a lot of concerns about the way that state government operates, and those of you who served with me probably know that I'm alluding to all of the unfunded mandates that come down. But we also know that the state legislature, for better than a quarter century, has not given towns and cities the fair share of the lottery money that was voted by the voters. The legislature changed it after we voted it. We don't get enough for the schools. So as I said, I'm very hesitant of that. On top of that, as you know, we have two state representatives from the Attleboro area, but only one lives in Attleboro. And so in essence, or in actuality, only one resident of Attleboro would really be voting for this measure. And if by some chance, on that particular day, that person is absent, if the measure was to be passed, it would be passed with nobody from Attleboro voting on it. Again, I still feel this should be put before the voters. I know that it can't go on a ballot for the federal election. The mayor just spoke about the other issue. I'm inclined to think that I would rather we wait and get it on the ballot and let the voters decide than we follow the approach of sending it up to the state legislature. So I thank you for your time. Thank you for your service. And if you have any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Do you have any questions for Mr. Cook? Okay. President Cook, always nice to see you.
Thank you. Good seeing you all
Thank you.
again. Good luck.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else to speak in favor? Anyone to speak in favor? Do we have anyone to speak against? We got two.
Okay.
Anyone?
You could come, whoever.
Yes.
One sheet each, please. Good evening, councilors. My name is Bill Bowles, 65 Norgate Road in Attleboro. And I was pleased and honored to be a member of this body for 14 years. So thank you for all the hard work that you do. My problem with this is I believe that it is unlawful. I don't believe you can do what the mayor is asking to be done. The article little XX of the big article LXXX of the state constitution, which is the document that I sent portions around and should be in your possession right now. There's two ways to change the charter. One of them is through chapter 3 of Article XX. And in that measure, you have to get 15% of registered voters, and those voters, the 15% has to be certified with the Election Commission like normally. And if that hurdle is done, then the City Council would be required to put on the ballot the election of a charter commission made up of at least 9 or more people, and the top 9 would be elected. There is also a chapter 4, which is the section that the mayor is asking to get this changed for. And section 4 is a relatively quick process. The city council would be required to take a vote on the charter change with a 2/3 vote. The mayor would need to sign it, and then you could take it to the legislature. The reason it has to go to the legislature is because the document that needs to be changed, it's the Massachusetts state constitution. It might be nice that Attleboro could do it, but they can't do this kind of a document. So the question is, why is it illegal? If you look at the document that I've provided, and there's one of them that starts with sections 2, 3, 4, and on the second page, the highlighted text for section 4, you will see, and I have that highlighted in yellow for you right under number 2. It says, any change in the city charter relating in any way to the composition, mode of election or appointment or terms of office of the legislative body, the mayor or the city manager and the Board of Elections only by a procedure charter revision set forth in Chapter 3. So what that basically means is you have to use the Chapter 3 process if you're going to do anything very substantial. Back a few years ago, when Councilor Dolan brought forward a charter change to make the pronouns gender neutral, that was an example of one that fit with Chapter 4. It was minor and it didn't really change anything. Back when I was on the council and serving as a state rep, as you know, we have a mandatory retirement age for the fire and the police chief to be 65 years old. And the council voted and the mayor signed a request to allow the fire chief to serve an additional year or 2. He was in good health, so we all did that. So that was passed, and I was the rep, brought that into the State House, so we passed that, and that's how it went. In this particular case here, if you actually recall, a few years ago, the then Mayor Paul Heroux wanted to enact term limits. And I came with this same piece of paper that I've passed out to you here tonight on Chapter 4, saying you can't you can't do this change because it would have related to the composition and the election or the mode of appointment. And obviously, if you had term limits, you're preventing that, so you can't do that. So you can't do that here either. So, and I can't picture how a city solicitor could have given the green light to something like this, because any first-year law student would look at the text here and see that you just can't do that. So that was the first thing I wanted to speak to the council of and ask you that this should be rejected and gone about it the right way. Even if we're going to do it the right way, I also have some concerns about the process. If we were doing this under Chapter 3, I would say that several years ago, probably 20 years ago, the city council put on a non-binding thing to get an opinion of whether the city treasurer should be elected or appointed, and it overwhelmingly passed that they wanted it to be elected. And the very same rationale that the mayor is using to make the city treasurer and I think the clerk, isn't there two positions?
Correct, it's the treasurer and the clerk.
Collector.
Collector, sorry.
Oh, yeah, it's to make the city
Clerk's on my mind.
treasurer and collector. That also would apply to the mayor. So if you were going to do that, I would think you would just bite the bullet and do what the communities do who are operating with a city or a town manager form of government. I don't think we would just want to take a piece of it. So I would strongly urge you to reject this on this basis.
Do we have Councilor Cobus?
Thank you for bringing this before us, and thank you for your service. Are you supposing that where this says any change in the charter relating in any way to the composition, mode of election or appointment of or terms of office of the legislative body, the mayor or city manager or the board of selectmen or town manager shall be made? This is saying that it applies to the legislative body, the mayor or city manager or board of selectmen. Are you saying that that should also apply to the treasurer and collector, or are you reading that to indicate that it does apply to them as well, or?
I'm reading it does apply to them because it says any change in the charter relating to in any way to the composition, mode of election, or appointment of the terms of office of the legislative body.
Legislative body, the mayor or city manager or the board of selectmen or town manager. So it lists out the people.
And I think the legislative body would be all of you and all of the constitutional officers. They broke out, mayor,
Okay.
You're right, but I would say that it certainly does that. And if you look at the intent of the thing, if you're reading 4, it's a very easy process to handle routine matters for the mayor to propose and the council to support taking 2 of the very powerful positions and changing that mode of appointment from appointed to elected. That certainly the spirit of that is not intended to be a quick process.
Okay, so your answer would be yes, that you do interpret this to apply to those positions as well.
Right.
Thank you.
Additional questions? Okay. All right. Thank you, Council Bowles.
Thank you.
Do we have anyone else to speak against? Good evening. You could just have your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Sandra Elderkin, 869 South Main Street in the city. I've lived in the city over 54 years now and voted probably almost every time. And I feel that this is a privilege, and if this was changed, it would be a privilege that's taken away from us. And I believe that the government should be by the people. And so I am opposed to the change. Thank you. And thank you all for your service.
Thank you. Do we have any questions for the speaker? Okay. Do we have anyone else to speak against? Do we have anyone to speak neither for nor against? Seeing none, Councilor Tavares, do you see any reason to keep this public hearing open?
I do not.
Thank you. I declare that public hearing closed. Entertain a motion to enter into committee of the whole.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? We are now operating in committee of the whole. Do we have anyone who wishes to address the city council on any piece of business? Seeing none, I would entertain a motion to arise from committee of the whole.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. We will now go into a reading of the mayor's communication.
May 21st, 2024. Dear municipal councilors, I respectfully submit a communication from Attleboro Public Schools Director of Finance Mark Furtado regarding the following fiscal year 23 fiscal obligation that was not received in time to be processed in the normal fiscal year 23 business cycle. The amount is $2,548, and the vendor is Castro, Thresher, and Olivera PC.
That'll go to Finance Committee because Council Kovic haven't had enough to do the last several weeks.
Fair enough, thank you.
I respectfully submit for confirmation by your honorable body the appointment of Kathy Davis of 439 Lindsay Street to fill an unexpired term on the Board of Recreation Commissioners, term to expire February 2026.
Personnel, Veterans, Human Services, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Schools David Sawyer regarding a donation of a Heart Sign Samaritan PAD 450P automated external defibrillator, AED, along with 1-year subscription to Arch Medical Direction and Program Management with an estimated value of $1,830.85 from the Nick Blakely Foundation to the Thatcher Elementary School. In accordance with Section 1-12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to accept this generous donation to the City of Attleboro.
City Property and Claims, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Council on Aging Kelly Lee regarding the receipt of the Community Development Block Grant in the amount of $15,702. No match is required by the City of Attleboro in accordance with Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro. I hereby request your honorable body to approve the expenditure of such funds by the Council on Aging to fund the Outreach Shine Counselor.
Personnel, Veterans, Human Services Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Fire Chief Scott T. LaChance regarding the need for funds to pay the 53rd pay week in fiscal year '24. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $27,866.54 from the fire employee training to the following: $21,000 to fire salary and wages, $5,000 to fire overtime, $500 to fire dispatch overtime, $600 to fire college credits, $66.54 to, thank you, to fire stipends, $700 to fire night differential.
Public Safety and Emergency Management, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Park and Forestry Derek Corsi regarding the needs for funds into professional services, ground supplies, vehicle supplies, and equipment supplies, supply lines for the Park and Forest. Thank you, for Park and Forestry Department. These funds will be used to purchase supplies needed to properly maintain these items for the remainder of the fiscal year. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $7,500 from the Park Salary and Wages account to the following: $1,500 to Park Professional Services, $2,000 Park Supply Grounds, $2,000 to Park Supplies Vehicles, and $2,000 to Park Supplies Equipment.
Public Works, please.
Excuse me. I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Park and Forestry Derek Corsi regarding the need for funds to repair an issue with the emission system on our 2014 Ford F-350 AC-1. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $2,500 from Citywide Reserve Fund account for transfer to the Animal Control Maintenance of Vehicles account.
Public Works, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Fire Chief Scott T. LaChance regarding the need for funds to pay a previous year bill for dispatcher training that was not eligible to be paid from the state 9/11 grant. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $429 from the Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer account to the fire transfer to grant account.
Public Safety and Emergency Management, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Chief of Police Kyle P. Hegney regarding the need for funds to cover the cost of 2 invoices due to unanticipated cost increases. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $1,075 from the Police Hazardous account to the Police Dues account.
Public Safety and Emergency Management, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Chief of Police Kyle P. Hegney regarding the need for funds to cover the cost of an outstanding invoice due to the unanticipated cost increase. This request of funds is within the police budget to cover the cost for Bristol County Law Enforcement Radio Network. This is an emergency notification system for the Bristol County Police Departments. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $750 from the Police Hazardous Duty Pay account to the Police Other Communications account. Moreover, there is a need for funds to cover the medical costs for medical exams for 2 new police officers. We recently had 2 police officers accept a trooper position within the Massachusetts State Police. Therefore, we are in the process of replacing these officers. As part of the hiring process, these police officer candidates will need medical screening. This is a required process for all new police officers. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $4,190 from the Police First Responders Stipend account to the Police Medical Consultation account. Additionally, there is a need for funds to purchase 20 portable radios. This week, the police department conducted a preventative maintenance system, PMS, on the department portable radios. A vendor was hired to perform PMS check and tuning. As a result, it was learned that several of the portable radios are in need of repair, and some of them are at the expiration of their serviceability life. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $30,000 from the Police Night Differential account to the Police Radios account and transfer $18,000 from the Police College Credits account to the Police Radios account.
Public Safety and Emergency Management, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Elections Officer Manager Sharon Fortune requesting an amendment to Section 1-8.1 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, which contains outdated pricing and information. The proposed amendment is as follows. 1-8.1 List of Persons Book. The list of persons book prepared by the Board of Election Commissioners shall be furnished free of charge as provided by law to all political committees and to all political candidates of the various districts in which the city is located. There shall be a $20 charge for all other printed copies and a $10 charge for all other copies supplied on a computer disk. Replace with 1-8.1 List of Persons Book. The list of persons book prepared by the Board of Election Commissioners shall be furnished free of charge as provided by law and to all political committees and to all political candidates of the various districts in which the city is located. There shall be a $30 charge for all other printed copies and a $4 charge for all other copies supplied on the thumb drive.
Elections, ordinances, and legislative matters, and Council Tavares, would you like to call for a public hearing? I'm thinking July 16th.
Yes, I would.
Second.
Thank you. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes. Thank you.
Thank you. For your information, the facility condition assessment building study that began last fall is now complete, and we have received a comprehensive 1393-page report for 27 city-owned buildings and facilities from our consultant, Bureau Veritas. The information complied in the report will be extremely useful to the respective city departments in preparing future capital improvement plans and related expenditures. Hard copies of the report are available for public viewing at the mayor's office and the building department.
It's an FYI. Thank you very much.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Budget and Administration, Lord Mason, regarding the need for funds for the fiscal year 24 snow deficit. The fiscal year 2024 snow deficit is now finalized at $425,183.61. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body appropriate $425,183.61 from the citywide undesignated fund balance free cash general government account to the following accounts: $32,178.64 to the snow ice control overtime snow removal, $17,500 to snow ice control snow participation, $7,001.46 to the snow ice control maintenance of equipment, $196,109.44 to the snow ice control snow plowing services, $48,625.04 to the snow ice control supplies equipment, $123,769.03 to the snow ice control supplies salt.
Public Works, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Budget and Admin Mason Lord regarding the need for salaries funding for the remainder of fiscal year 24. There are departments with projected shortfalls in their respective salary accounts due to employee earned time payouts and backfill for employees out on extended leave. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer the following: $1,000 from the citywide reserve fund for transfer account to the mayor salary and wages full-time account. $1,000 from the citywide reserve fund for transfer account to the budget and administration salary and wages full-time account.
That'll go to Finance Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Fire Chief Scott T. LaChance regarding the fire department's radio communication system and communication recording system. Recently, the fire department experienced system-wide radio communication problems at the transmitter site and failure of a satellite receiver. An assessment was performed and several critical infrastructure items need to be addressed. The appropriate cost for this project is $20,000, the approximate cost, excuse me. Additionally, the fire department communications recording system is more than 20 years old and is no longer supported by the manufacturer. Because the current system is experiencing more frequent failures, it is imperative to replace the system to maintain the ability to record incoming and outgoing telephone and radio communications. The included quote includes reoccurring expenses subject to annual agreements and would become part of the annual fire department budget. The approximate cost for the equipment, software, and installation for this project is $42,500. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body authorize the city to expend $62,500 of ARPA funds on the costs associated with the fire department communication system repairs and upgrades.
Public Safety and Emergency Management, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Planning and Development, Gary Arasian, regarding the receipt of a Southeast New England Program, SNEP, Watershed Implementation Grant in the amount of $40,000 from the Rhode Island Department of Environmental Management and NEIWPCC for the removal and eradication of nuisance water chestnut in the 10 Mile River watershed, more specifically Dodgeville Pond. In accordance with Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to approve the expenditure of such funds and also approve any further grant amendments.
Public Works, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Planning and Development, Gary Arasian, regarding the receipt of an earmark in the amount of $25,000 through the efforts and hard work of Senator Paul Feeney and for the purpose of repairing and improving the canoe launch and small municipal parking lot area located on Holden Street, adjacent to the Bungie River Conservation Area. The Department of Planning and Development prepared the site plan and design specifications in-house. In accordance with Chapter 1, Section 12 of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro, I hereby request your honorable body to approve the expenditure of such funds and also approve any further grant amendments.
Public Works, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Superintendent of Public Works, Michael Tyler, regarding the need for funds for annual street line painting and 8 days of police details, which will be utilized when patching potholes on busy roadways. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer the following: $25,000 from the Public Works Salary and Wages account to the Public Works Street Painting Services, $4,123.52 from the Public Works Salary Seasonal account to the Public Works Professional Professional Services account.
Public Works, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Budget Administration, Mason Lord, regarding the need to fund the 53rd payroll week for animal control. The 53rd week in fiscal year 2024 is only one day, Sunday, June 30th. Therefore, only departments that are operating on Sunday the 30th require funding for the 53rd week payroll. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer $250 from the citywide reserve for compensation 53rd week account to the animal control salary and wages full-time account.
Finance Committee, please.
I respectfully submit a communication from Director of Budget and Admin Mason Lord for a transfer request from the remaining reserve for 53rd week and reserve for labor negotiations to compensated absent reserves. Therefore, I hereby request your honorable body transfer the following: $132,750 from the citywide reserve for compensation 53rd week account to the citywide transfer to compensation absent account, and further transfer $132,750 to fund 2517 reserve for compensated absences, $45,801.86 from the citywide reserve fund labor negotiations account to the citywide transfer to compensated absence, and further transfer $45,801.86 to fund 2517 reserve for compensated absent.
Personnel, Veterans, Human Services, please.
Sincerely, Kathleen D. Simone, Mayor.
Thank you. There is no clerk's communication, I believe, so we will jump right into committee reports, beginning as always with Councilor Cobus.
The Finance Committee doesn't have anything to report.
Before you go on, can you just talk about the meetings, the upcoming meetings for budget?
So we have a meeting coming up at 7 PM on Thursday to draft the budget message. We've been having meetings on Thursday nights to review all of the individual departments. Those meetings went, I think, incredibly well. We've reviewed each individual department, and that went well. One thing we'll talk more on Thursday. One thing that came up on last week when we were discussing the bag fee and the potential waste fee, the overall rate. On Monday when I met with Deb.
Council Copes, if you could just focus on the dates of the meeting.
Okay.
Thank you, just
Sure.
so we're not discussing anything that's in
Absolutely.
committee.
We'll meet on Thursday.
What time?
7 p.m.
7, okay.
7, and then next Wednesday to vote the
Next Wednesday to vote everything out.
out of committee, and then in front of the full council.
Tuesday we'll vote everything. Tuesday we'll vote things out, and then Wednesday will be the full council.
Perfect, and that meeting on Wednesday, the 29th, will be at
7 p.m.
7 p.m. Perfect. Thank you, and thank you for your leadership and your work on this.
Of course.
Councilor Foa.
From the docket of May 21st, 2024, I move to transfer $9,293.45 from the account for budget and administration new computer equipment to the account for budget and administration maintenance of software. This is a matter that we discussed.
One moment, we need a second before we can begin discussion.
Thank you. Is there a second? Second. Thank you.
I'll call for the second. Thank you. Councilor Holmes, thank you for the second. No worries, it's okay, we still like you, Vice President.
Thanks,
Bowen.
man.
Councilor Foa.
This is a matter that we discussed, I believe, fully in committee.
Very good. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
I call for a committee hearing at the next appropriate time.
You don't have a second motion?
No, I do not.
Okay. Councilor Lavoy.
Reporting for the licensing committee from the docket of April 16th, 2024. I move to approve the application to waive section 1-15.1 to serve alcoholic beverages or wine on city property, and a license application, section 9-20, keeping a stand in a public
Excuse me,
place.
Council Fuller. Excuse me. Thank you. Sorry, Council.
No worries, President Delicio, thank you. Section 9-20, keeping a stand in a public place from Moran's Inc., 16 South Main Street.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Dolan. Councilor Lavoy, motion is in order. Any comments?
I believe we discussed this in committee pretty well.
Okay. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
Thank you. From the docket of May 21st, 2024, I move to approve the renewal request for a scrap metal recycler junk dealer license, which was received from Polarized New England Company, LLC, at 136 Bacon Street.
Second.
Thank you, motion is in order. Any comments?
Again, we discussed this pretty well in committee, and this is just a standard renewal, which happens every year.
Okay, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Ms. Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
That is all the business for the license committee this evening, and I will call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Councilor Reynolds.
Thank you. Reporting for City Property and Claims Committee from the docket of May 21st, 2024. I move to declare the following police items as surplus and available for disposition for trade-in or to sell. There are two, a 2013 and 2014 Ford PI utility. They are both in poor condition.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any
Yeah.
comments?
Oh, I'm
Pressure
sorry.
washer.
I have one, I'm sorry. On that same motion, there is a Subaru pressure washer, and that's poor and inoperable condition.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
I have none.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a voice vote, beginning with Councilor Tavares. A roll call vote, rather.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of May 21st, 2024, I move to transfer $4,033 from account Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account collector, monitors, printers, and others to purchase a new collector's office printer.
Second.
Thank you, Vice President Dolan. Motion is in order. Any comments?
I have none.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of May 21st, 2024, I move to transfer $14,500 from account collector salary and wages to account collector postage to cover postage costs for the remainder of fiscal year '24.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
None.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Counselor Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of May 21st, 2024, I move to accept the generous donation of downtown signage and pole banners from the Transformative Development Initiative Program. The TDI program has been awarded $13,000 and will help create a sense of brand to the downtown area.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments? Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this requires a voice vote. All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Motion passes.
That is all the business City Property and Claims Committee has this evening, but I would like to call a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you very much. Vice President Dolan.
Thank you. Reporting for Public Works Committee from the docket of June 4th, 2024. I move to accept the following donation generously given to the city. A donation from R.J. Forbes Industrial and Commercial Painting Company that will assist us to complete the ongoing repair project at the Fred S. Briggs Pool. The donation of services and material has a dollar value of $35,900 and includes the following: sandblasting and power washing the interior of the pool, and enough Nemec or T-Mec, I'm not sure, excuse me, N69 epoxy for 3 applications.
Second.
Thank you, Council Holmes. Vice President Dolan, motions in order. Any comments?
No, we just discussed in committee.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this requires a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
From the docket of May 21st, 2024, I move to appropriate $60,000 from account Water Enterprise Fund retained earnings to account Water Enterprise Fund License Power to cover the cost of electricity for the remainder of fiscal year '24.
Second.
Thank you. Motions in order. Any comments?
None, we discussed in committee.
And did you say water or wastewater? I believe you
think-
said water, but I think it's wastewater.
Did I say water?
Yeah.
I don't, okay, well, it's
I'm gonna nitpick
wastewater.
because I'm bored.
I'm gonna watch, now I gotta watch the video back.
That's fine. If I'm wrong, I'll buy you a coffee.
I'll text you.
I'll buy you a coffee. All right. It's
So
a
no
motion and
comments.
second.
Second.
Okay, additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of May 21st, 2024, I move to transfer $2,000 from account Citywide Reserve Fund for transfer to account Animal Control Salary and Wages to replenish funds used for a callback overtime to cover the high influx of service calls.
Second.
Thank you, motions in order. Any comments?
None, we discussed in committee.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Tavares.
Mr. Tavares? Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of May 21st, 2024, I move to establish Fund 8510 PFAS Water Special Purpose Stabilization Fund. The fund shall receive 100% of revenues received from settlements related to PFAS contaminants in the drinking water system. Funds may be expended for capital or debt expenditures for the water enterprise system.
Second.
Thank you, motion is in order. Any comments?
No, we discussed in committees just to start the stabilization fund.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
From the docket of May 21st, 2024, the mayor submitted a communication from City Auditor Deborah Gould regarding Fund 3343 Globe Street Water Mains. The water superintendent has requested funds to complete a water main project on Globe Street. The estimate for the project, including contingency, is $150,000. Therefore, I move to approve the following votes for transfers and appropriation as follows.
We can waive the
Second.
reading where you read it in at committee. Seconded by Councilor Holmes. Thank you. And motion is in order. Any comments?
This is just to transfer money from other finished products to finish the Globe Street project.
Okay. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you, motion passes.
And that's all the business for the Public Works Committee, and I call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. And Councilor Holmes.
Thank you. Reporting for Public Safety and Emergency Management Committee from the docket of May 21st, 2024. I move to transfer $5,000 from account Police Defibrillator Stipend to account Police Uniforms and transfer $8,000 from account Police First Responder Stipend to account Police Supplies Radio Equipment to provide 2 new police recruits with uniforms and equipment.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, we discussed in committee.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of May 21st, 2024, I move to approve the expenditure and such funds by the Attleboro Police Department as specified within the parameters of the grant, and also approve any further grant amendments regarding the anticipated receipt of public safety answering point support and incentive grant of approximately $165,000, $165,000 I don't know why I can't say this.
165,73.
Thank you, 165,733 for fiscal year 25 from Executive Office of Public Safety and Security, State 911 Department.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, we discussed in committee.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this will be a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of May 21st, 2024, I move to approve the expenditure of such funds by the Attleboro Fire Department as specified within the parameters of the grant, and also approve any further grant amendments regarding the receipt of the Hazardous Material Response Grant from the Commonwealth of Massachusetts Department of Fire Services. This grant is a 10-year contract with an end date of June 30th, 2033. The anticipated total annual expense will be approximately $24,424.82 based on 120 hours of annual incident response.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, we discussed in committee.
Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of May 21st, 2024, I move to transfer $50,000 from account fire certification differential to account fire college credits.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, we discussed in committee.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Tavares.
Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
Thank you. That concludes the business this evening. I'll call for a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you, Councilor Holmes. Councilor Angelo.
Thank you, President Delicio. On the report of Personal Veterans Human Services Committee, I have two motions. From the docket of May 21st, 2024, I move to approve the resubmitted names for confirmation to the following reappointments. James Jones, Cable Advisory Commission, 1 year, February 2025. Ann King, and Cultural Council, 3 year, February 2027. David Pierce, Board of Library Trustees, 3 years, February 2026. Frederick Garapi, Board of Park Commissioners, 5 year, February 2029. Jennifer Keating Roca, Cultural Council, 3 years, February 2027.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, sir, we discussed this in committee.
Okay. Thank you. We'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares? President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
For the docket of April 16, 2024, I move to change the exempt classification plan by adding licensed social worker to a grade 8 in the exempt classification plan to work with the opioid settlement funds plan.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No, sir, we discussed this pretty extensively in committee.
Any additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote, beginning with Councilor Tavares.
Mr. Tavares? Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
That's all there is for Personal Veterans and Human Services Committee. Call for a meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you very much. Councilor Sawyer.
Thank you, President Delicio. Reporting for Zoning and Land Use Committee from the docket of May 21st, 2024. I move to accept the generous land donation from Ms. Linda M. Weston of approximately 3.9 acres of land donation shown as lot number 353, map 24, located in North Attleboro and is adjacent to city-owned property in the watershed. The donation has been approved as to form by Attorney Peter T. McNulty of Murphy, Hens, and Lehane, LLP.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
We did talk about how this is right up against the watershed, and that was a great donation from this person.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have roll call vote, beginning with Mr. Cobus.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds? Vice President Dolan?
Yes.
Ms. Holmes?
Yes.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
Yes.
Mr. Waterman?
Yes.
Mr. Tavares? President Delicio?
Yes.
11 yeas, 0 nays.
Thank you. Motion passes.
From the docket of February 20th, 2024, I move to approve the rezoning petition from John F. D. Jacoby III relating to proposed amendments to ordinance S 17-6.9, table of permitted signs and dimensional regulations of the Attleboro zoning ordinances.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
Yes, I wanted to say again that I am against this because of all the reasons I had mentioned before of the environmental issues, and also the planning board has voted to recommend to deny this petition as well, and all of the reasons that they had mentioned, from visual pollution, the lack of specificity in regards to the sign controls, dimensions and design, and this is also changing the item on the grid saying no signs to special permit of off-premises signs, and that's not going to be in just a couple places, but many. It could go to any different industrial land in the city. And we want to just keep, we want to see what we want for our city to be like, and to put these signs on is something that's very, I think, bad visual for the city, and that also hurts the environment. So that's my comments.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Council Reynolds.
I actually would have liked to have seen it come back in and manipulate it a little bit to make it fit what the chief was looking for, because he actually really wanted it, thought it would be important to the city. So, I'm disappointed that didn't happen.
Thank you. Additional questions, comments? Council LaVoy.
I'd like to make a motion to add a restriction of within 200 feet from I-95. Interstate 95 to be proper.
Second.
Thank you. Thank you. The motion's been seconded. The amendment's been seconded, and that's within 200 feet, you said?
Yes.
Okay. Any comments?
I do have a couple comments, or a brief comment. I did run this by Jack Jacoby, who obviously, as we all know, is representing these business owners, potential business owners. All of you should have gotten a map within your mailbox. I did put this through Virginia today for all the councilors. Basically, this outlines the zoning currently of Attleboro, and I've highlighted the two locations where the signs are proposed, and the only one other location that would be allowed under this provision if accepted. So that would be a total of 3 potential signs within the city of Attleboro. It is worth noting that the only other suitable location, which is the third one listed, is currently a solar farm, so it's not believed that logistically this would work. And also that Mass General Law requires 1,000 feet in between signs. So they could not put multiple signs on one piece of property, which others had been concerned about, but I did confirm that Mass General Law does not allow them to be within 1,000 feet of each other.
Council Sawyer.
Is this something that's, it seems outside of the scope of what they were coming up with to change the grid? And I don't understand, I don't know, what does the amount of space away from the highway have anything to do with this? That's just my question. I wonder.
I'll rebut to that.
Council LaVoy.
Thank you. So this basically just covers some of the concerns of this body. I believe that many councilors here on the body were very concerned with light pollution, location as it coincides with homes, things of that nature. So I thought it was appropriate to restrict it to what I view on the zoning map as outside of those concerns mentioned by this body. So I know there was concerns of spot zoning and things like that. It's not considered spot zoning because it's directly referencing the concerns for light pollution with residential homes. Many mentioned Pleasant Street. I think this is a viable solution to a majority of the concerns mentioned.
Council Sawyer.
If something like this is changing, do you have to start over, like have another public hearing to see? I mean, I don't know, because I'm new, so I'm just asking the question to see if it's something that has to be brought back to people and be able to approve of it.
So to my knowledge, no. From every person I've reached out to and asked, no, but if President Delicio feels otherwise, he may certainly interject.
And I'll take some additional feedback. Vice President Dolan and then Council Reynolds.
Thank you. So I don't believe this amendment can be made because we already had and closed the public hearing. This map that you submitted tonight wasn't included in the original application, nor was it part of the advertisement. So it wasn't part of the initial proposal, nor was there a map submitted at that time. So I don't believe that this amendment can be made and voted on, as it changes the substance of the public hearing that's been closed.
Okay, thank you. Council Reynolds and Council Cobus.
I really had no further comments. I was pointing to you to make a comment.
Council Cobus.
In my opinion, this amendment doesn't change the substance of this proposal in any significant way in the intent of the proposal, or what was advertised, or what was discussed at the public hearing. This just sort of locks it down to what was discussed and very clearly sort of locks it into no, that this is only allowed within 200 feet of the interstate highway, which is what the intent of from my understanding, the intent of the proposal was, and what was presented at the public hearing. So in my opinion, it does not change anything.
No.
You sure?
Yes, I think so.
Council Reynolds.
So I'll go along with that. Actually, I thought that's really a great comment to make, because I think that is what people were concerned about, even though I think the intent was already there. And for myself, where one is going to be, I had one person call me in all of South Attleboro. I checked with people down near that area, and they said they don't think it would make any difference whether it was there or not. I think the biggest thing was, for people, was it going to be noise pollution, basically, light pollution. And they felt satisfied that it wasn't going to be. And the one person that had a concern, when I spoke to her, that the chief was definitely wanting this for reasons of safety, she felt comfortable with it.
Okay, thank you. Councilor Angelo.
Thank you, President Delicio. I like that. I appreciate it. You did your homework, and I think that's is a good option. And I completely agree with Councilor Cobus on his words. And thank you very much for both of you.
Thank you. Councilor Fowa.
I understand the nature of the motion. I don't believe that it addresses the fundamental issues which Councilor Holmes raised initially about the environment and the nature of the I-95 corridor. In fact, it encourages even more of these advertising signs along the I-95 corridor. And I am against this motion. I am against the underlying matter as well, but we'll reach that after this motion is determined.
Vice President Dolan.
Thank you. So I firmly believe that we're changing this and including a new map that wasn't in the original proposal, nor was it voted on by planning or in the original advertisement. Also, when it comes to light pollution and noise pollution and anything to that effect, there were no studies or anything submitted with the original proposal of any light spray. All they said was it's going to face the highway. So there were no studies reported, and while Councilor Reynolds makes good points, I know you spoke to people in South Attleboro, but I'm not sure if you talked to anybody, because there's also one going on Walton Street. So we need to take into consideration the folks that live there as well. Thank you.
So from my view, this does not alter the intention of the public hearing. This is an amendment which is not uncommon after a public hearing. I think the map was an illustration brought in by Councilor Lavoy for his amendment. So I would suggest we vote the amendment either up or either down, and then we look at the business either amended or not. That being said, we'll have a roll call vote on the amendment, which is to add within 200 feet from I-95. And we'll have A roll call vote beginning with Counselor Tavares, and again, this is just on the amendment, only the amendment.
Mr. Tavares. Mr. Waterman.
No.
Ms. Sawyer.
No.
Mr. Angelo.
Yes.
Ms. Holmes.
No.
Vice President Dolan.
No.
Ms. Reynolds.
Yes.
Mr. Lavoy.
Yes.
Ms. Foa.
No.
Mr. Cobus.
Yes.
5 yeas. Oh, sorry, President Delicio,
Thank
my
you.
apologies.
Yes,
Thank you. 6 yeas, 5 days.
amendment passes. We are now back to the motion as amended, and we'll take additional questions or comments. Counselor Lavoy.
Thank you, President Delicio. Thank you to those who approved the amendment. I put forward the amendment more so just to kind of outline what I think is a lot of councilors just kind of acting off personal belief. So I just solely put this in there because I know this is not going to pass tonight, and I could charter object, but I'm not gonna. I think speaking to those involved, they really just want to see it voted on, and more so highlight those that are in support or not in support, and they don't see an effort to kind of kick the can down the road. As a business owner, I ask the council to support this for businesses. I think where everyone here campaigns on business and promoting business and wanting more business, this is the type of thing that brings in business. This is what developers look at and business owners look at to come into a city. So you have to start asking yourself if you want to be a green city with no businesses and fund it all on your own taxes. That sounds great. Or you can fund green open space with tax money that comes through from businesses. I mean, every single year, for the most part, we shift the tax burden onto businesses, and they're not going to come here, and they're not going to keep paying more taxes if you don't help them. So I just don't know how long we're going to kick the can down the road. That's all I have.
Counselor Foa, Counselor Cobus, and Counselor Sawyer.
I don't
Does
see
he have
this, excuse me. I don't see this as being anti-business or pro-business. I do think that this is an environmental issue. There is absolutely no evidence that the advertisements will increase business in Attleboro. We'll have to do with Attleboro, or we'll send people to Attleboro. The question that was raised by Councilor Dolan is an important one, I believe. That is, we don't know how this money is going to actually be transferred to the city of Attleboro. There's no contract, so there's nothing, as I understand it, which will prevent a owner of one of these billboards for saying in 3 years, gee, it didn't bring in as much money as we thought, and we're not going to pay you, or we're not going to pay you as much, City of Attleboro. I also think that the money that they're offering us is grossly inadequate. If they were offering us what they're talking about in total to be paid in total today, that's one thing. But the value of the money over a period of years is insignificant, as I see it. So I believe that the adverse visual effect, the adverse environmental impact, is really the controlling issue for the green Attleboro. I don't believe that it will adversely affect business in the city of Attleboro, and I urge you not to approve this.
Counselor Cobus.
Thank you. And just to quickly reiterate some of Councilor Lavoy's points about we all campaign about being business friendly. We all want to drive business in Attleboro. This is an opportunity to grab business from the highway and people that would be driving by, to grab them and say, hey, come spend money in Attleboro. These are people that don't necessarily live in Attleboro. These are signs that are facing outward. They're not affecting us. These are people that would potentially just fly right by and not get off the highway in Attleboro, not be aware of businesses, whether it's a gym in Attleboro, whatever small business or big business or whatever the business is in Attleboro that's being advertised. The car would just fly by and potentially not be aware. This is an opportunity for them to get off the highway and come spend money in Attleboro. And this is an opportunity to drive business from outside the city into the city. And we should jump on this opportunity, regardless of them giving money to the city and the agreements or this, that, and the other thing. This is an opportunity for us, in my opinion, and I encourage everybody to support it.
Thank you. Councilor Sawyer, then we'll go to Councilor Lavoy, Vice President Dolan, and then Mr. Angelo.
Thank you. I very much agree with what Councilor Foa had said about, we don't know what is going to be brought in for businesses. And businesses come and go. Our environment is here, and we want to, the impact to the environment for these signs, for wildlife, is ongoing, and it will continue. And it's grossly inadequate as to what they would be giving us for those billboards to be up. For a potential small penny, well, $100,000 a year. I mean, I have this whole calculation. They're making basically $24 million a day to giving us $100,000 a year, and still, it's impacting the environment. We have one Earth. We should protect it.
Councilor Lavoy.
Sorry, I'm just.
If there's anything new.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
If there's
It's
anything new
definitely
to
new.
add to the conversation,
Yes, it
please.
is definitely new, Mr. President.
Thank you.
Firstly, the $24 million a day figure is definitely very inaccurate. However, what I will say is I understand that people are concerned about the environment. We have two of these signs in South Attleboro right on the Pawtucket line, and to my knowledge, anybody in here may correct me if I'm wrong, but I have not heard of any environmental disaster or any wrongdoing to the environment from those signs that have been there probably longer than I've been alive, or a good chunk to it. So that's all I have.
Thank you. Vice President Dolan.
Thank you. So I do have new stuff, but just to reiterate, there was no reports on that submitted with this proposal on the lights or the sound that it could potentially make, and we shouldn't be assuming what people campaign on, because we're not in other people's shoes. And also, and as far as environmental, I think, most people care about the environment and everything, and, I don't think it needs to be a environmental disaster, but there are environmental effects. That's all I have to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Angelo.
Thank you, President Delacio. I am someone that travels all over the country, and I can tell you this: I certainly depend on a lot of signs on the side of the highway. To Councilor Lavoy's point, Councilor Kovac's point, about finding places and stuff, and that has been a big help to me over the years. And I've been traveling since I was in my mid-20s. So that's one point. Another point is I had a couple people email me that were against this, but I had a lot of people reach out to me that was for this, overwhelmingly. And then I hear about assumptions and stuff, and being grossly inadequate for what we're getting, but I don't hear any figures on what we should be getting or that. So that's all I have to say.
Thank you. Councilor Reynolds.
Very, very brief. I think that as I'm listening to this body discuss and go back and forth, the error I think that was made is that we closed the public hearing too soon. I mean, it has happened, it's done. But when there are questions like this that we're waiting, that's why you leave the public hearing open, so that additional information can be heard, can be discussed further, that kind of thing. So sometimes I think we have to spend a little more time trying to understand what is going on, and is it a close vote, and why is it, and then decide to leave the public hearing open. So for me, that's where the initial mistake was made. It wasn't left open. And that's my
Councilor Waterman.
Well, my experience was totally different, I think. I had over 30 people contact me. 29 of them did not want this. And those who were in the gray area were very, very unexcited about it. Those are people who weren't sure one way or the other, but didn't really impress. I grew up in a beautiful stretch of highway in southern Connecticut, and I also lived in a beautiful stretch of 95 in Vermont. Well, that's not 95, but it's an interstate. And this is a beautiful stretch that we have right here. And so when I use the word environment, that's what I want to retain, is that beautiful stretch. And I don't believe this will hurt business at all. And you can tell me I'm wrong, but I really don't. We've got some really good areas where business can show up and advertise all it wants. And that's pretty much all I have to say.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Councilor Dolan, I'd like to give up the seat for a minute. Thank you.
Oh, sweet Jesus, there goes your laptop.
That's all right, that's fine. Are you all right?
Sorry, man.
No, don't worry about it, it's fine. Don't worry about it.
She's having a day.
President Delicio.
Well, that was a good change of pace.
Just so
thank you.
graceful.
So, thank you. Thank you for the discussion. Thank you for listening to each other. I think, Council Sawyer, you've done a nice job of, in committee, ushering through the discussion. This is either gonna pass by one or fail by one, depending on where you're looking at, right? I think some of the comments that were made are accurate. You know, I think that it's not about necessarily bringing business to Attleboro, but it's about taking care of those that are here already, giving them an opportunity. I thought Councilor Angelo's point was pretty spot on when he said, you know, you're traveling. I travel across the state every single day, and there are times I'm looking for a gas station, looking for something to pull over to eat, and it's the billboards that have helped me. I agree there was no reporting about the light pollution, but conversely then, the argument could be made there was no reporting about the impact of the environment. So we're all just kind of sitting here thinking about what makes sense. And I'd say when we come to a vote, you got to vote for what you believe in. Council Waterman, I agree. I had quite a few people go like, what are we even talking about? It's a billboard? So they don't understand everything, right? For me personally, I think it's more advantageous to have these than not. I don't know what the environmental impact is going to be or not. I don't. But I think from just a selfish standpoint, the city's ability to put things on there, the police's ability to put messages on there, for me, that alone is worth it. Whatever the income is, it's better than what we're getting now. I think that we're in a situation where we need to be creative and we need to find other revenue streams. As far as what people campaigned on, I agree. I mean, we can go get push cards, we can go to people's websites. Doesn't matter what we campaigned on right now, it matters on what we're gonna do with this opportunity in front of us. So, vote your conscience on this one. I'm gonna vote in favor of it personally, but vote your conscience, and this was a good conversation. And it wasn't just, we've talked about it a couple times. Everyone had the opportunity, and it was respectful. So for that, I thank you. Don't trip. Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, we'll have a roll call vote on the motion as amended with Councilor Cobus starting us off.
Mr. Cobus?
Yes.
Ms. Foa?
No.
Mr. Lavoy?
Yes.
Ms. Reynolds?
Yes.
Vice President Dolan?
No.
Ms. Holmes?
No.
Mr. Angelo?
Yes.
Ms. Sawyer?
No.
Mr. Waterman?
No.
Where am I? Right here. Mr. Tavares?
Yes.
President Delicio?
Yes,
6 yeas, 5 nays.
motion passes.
Can I ask a question? I'm sorry. And an ordinance changes it at 2/3 vote?
No, this is a simple majority.
I'm gonna have to charter object that.
Vote's already passed. If we can recess and we can take a look, but I don't believe that this is a simple majority. We can take a look. Is there entertained motion to recess?
Second.
So moved.
Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We recess. Excuse me. call this meeting of the Municipal Council back to order at 8:21. All right, so, Council Sawyer, you were correct. This does require 8 yeas, so therefore the motion fails. And Council Sawyer.
Sorry. All right, that concludes the business of the Zoning and Land Use Committee. For a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Council Waterman.
From the Traffic and Transportation Committee, we have one item in the docket of January 2, 2024. I would move to strike the following: to approve the installation of a crosswalk signage and signage on Slater Street at the intersection of Pass Farm Road and Avalon Drive for pedestrian safety.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
Well, I already talked about that last week. However, I believe we have what is set up in place with signage that there will be pedestrian safety.
Additional questions, comments, concerns? Seeing none, this is a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes. Council Waterman.
There's no other business. We'll meet at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Council Tavares.
Thank you, President Delacio. Reporting for ordinances, elections, and legislative matters from the docket of November 21st, 2023. I move to call for a public hearing on June 18, 2024 to amend section 12.3.3P of the revised ordinances of the City of Attleboro as follows. E, engage in disorderly conduct pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 272, Section 53, as construed by the courts.
Second.
Thank you. Motion is in order. Any comments?
No comments.
This will be a voice vote. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion passes.
Thank you, and that concludes the business of ordinances, elections, and legislative matters. We request a committee meeting at the next appropriate time.
Thank you. Council Tavares.
The special committee on tax abatement has no business for this evening.
Thank you. Council Follow.
The special committee on
Rules and procedure.
rules and
Rules and
procedure.
procedure.
Rules and procedure has no business this evening.
Thank you. Councilor Angelo.
Thank you, President Delacio. The special meeting on classification compensation is known in business. We call for meeting at next appropriate time.
Thank you. I'd entertain, there is no old business, no new business. I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? We are adjourned at 8:24. Thank you, everyone.